On a cold afternoon in January 1919, Boston residents heard what witnesses later described as the sound of an explosion from the sky. But it wasn't dynamite. It wasn't a bomb. It wasn't even a storm. It was molasses, a massive wave of it, roaring through the streets at nearly 56 kilometers per hour, flattening buildings, throwing people into the air, and leaving a trail of destruction that looked like a battlefield. And according to the Boston Globe, the wave was so strong it hurled a railroad car into a harbor. This is the chapter of history most people never learned. The disaster began at 12:40 p.m. in Boston's North End, a neighborhood of narrow streets and brick apartments. Towering over everything was a steel storage tank owned by the Purity Distilling Company, holding over 2 million gallons of molasses. According to documents archived on mossmoments.org, the tank wasn't just tall. It was massive enough to fill an Olympic pool 10 times. And then the rivet snapped. Residents described hearing a metallic scream, like a giant twisting apart. Moments later, a dark wall burst from the tank. Eyewitnesses told the New York Times it looked almost alive. Within seconds, horses, wagons, and entire homes vanished beneath a sticky wave more powerful than a hurricane. If you saw a wave like that coming toward you, would you run or would you freeze? Tell me in the comments. It's easy to laugh at molasses today. But in 1919, this sticky liquid was used to make ammunition and alcohol, meaning the tank was a wartime asset. When it burst, the molasses didn't flow like syrup on pancakes. It moved like a liquid avalanche. According to Smithsonian Magazine, the pressure wave lifted a firehouse off its foundation, smashed train tracks, and crushed the harbor pier. A nearby elevated railway line buckled under the force. Rescue workers said the thick, sweet smell clung to the air for months. In total, 21 people died, many trapped in the sticky mire, unable to escape. And here's the part that always shocks people. Some survivors said the wave was so dark and towering that at first, they didn't know what hit them. They thought it might be a tsunami or even a bomb, and that detail loops us back to the beginning. Because the first question journalists asked was simple. What could cause something this destructive? The company blamed anarchists, claiming radicals had bombed the tank. And this wasn't random. Boston had seen multiple bombings in the years prior, so the story was believable. But investigators dug deeper. According to court records archived by Harvard University's law school, the truth was far less dramatic and far more infuriating. The tank had been leaking for months. Residents saw molasses seeping down its sides. Kids collected it in cups. And when workers complained, the company's response was shocking. They painted the tank brown to hide the leaks. What followed became one of America's earliest and longest industrial lawsuits, a case so big it lasted 5 years. According to the Washington Post, more than 3,000 pages of testimony were recorded, making it one of the largest legal transcripts of its time. Engineers determined the tank's steel was too thin. Worse, the company skipped basic safety tests because they were rushing to sell alcohol before prohibition became law. The judge ruled against the company, calling the disaster a man-made catastrophe. It became a turning point in safety regulations, influencing building codes, inspections, and industrial standards still used today. Cleanup crews spent 6 months scraping hardened molasses off streets, walls, and rooftops. According to an entry on Wikipedia, local sailors claimed the Boston harbor stayed brown for years. And Boston police joked that everything, from boots to door handles, remained sticky long after the disaster was forgotten. Even now, historians say that on hot summer days, the North End still carries a faint, sweet smell. This tragedy didn't involve kings or empires. Just a series of ignored warnings that ended with one of the strangest disasters in American history. If you want to join a community that digs up the forgotten chapters of our world, you're in the right place. Stick around. We uncover a new mystery every week, and every episode links to the next. Like, share, and subscribe if you want to be part of this journey. not for numbers, but because stories like this deserve to be remembered.